Looking to include more meaningful reading in your life? Today, I'm going to share 4 tips on how you can read better, remember more, and enjoy the process. Reading is an important part of my day to day life. As a new homeschool mom, I'm usually reading ahead to make sure that I'm prepared for the discussions with the kids on their lessons. With my personal finance work, I'm usually reviewing books or going over articles and preparing for interviews on the podcast. And then as I get into data analysis, I'm picking up a book about code so I can improve and learn how to program better. Basically, reading is a part of my life and I enjoy it, whether it's on the Kindle, grabbing something from the library, or something from my personal collection. One of the reasons I enjoy reading is that it connects me to amazing stories, ideas, and lessons that I can carry with me throughout my life. It's also an incredible, useful way for me to learn and prepare for whatever goals I'm trying to tackle for the year. In short, reading is a habit, a hobby, and a joy of mine. Now, there are plenty of articles online, videos, all talking about how to read faster. From a practical standpoint, yes, reading at a certain speed can help you get through the books that you have on your book list. But is that your only goal? You've got to be careful because sometimes with productivity culture, it goes too far and there's too much emphasis on the quantity instead of the quality. It's great if you can read a book a week. With my work and family commitments, I've achieved that. However, this year with my reading plan, I'm focused not necessarily on reading more, but I'm striving to read better. For me, that means absorbing what I read, appreciating the books, and then having something that I can carry with me and use in my life. So if you're in the same boat as me, you're not just looking to read more, but read more deeply and remember more and use more of what you're learning. I have 4 tips for you. Even though I'm going to give them as a list, you'll notice right away that they're all connected and you're going to be switching back and forth through the steps. The first one is different books require different approaches. Think of reading like a meal. Sure, there are some meals that are just ready, grab and go. Then there are other meals where you invite your friends, you prepare, set the table, get the nice utensils out, and just have a great discussion. And so the books that you put on your list, you need to appreciate that you can't just use one technique to read and remember them all. It really is going to matter what type of book are you reading. For example, if you're reading a history book, you're going to probably be considering who are the important people? What are the key events? What are the catalysts that led to this? And are there any lessons and takeaways that I can use to either avoid a certain mistake or try to develop myself to make better decisions? And then if you're dealing with poetry, you might be considering, wait a minute, I just want to linger on this and appreciate how they put this together. Maybe you have some beautiful phrasings in there that you want to keep in mind, so you jot it down. If you are into productivity and you're reading one of the books, you're going to be looking for actionable takeaways that are going to help you hit your goals for the year faster and be more effective. As you can see, different books do require different approaches. And don't beat yourself up if a book that you've chosen on the list proves to need more time than maybe you estimated. It's not a contest. Even if you don't knock out a book every single week, you're still making progress. You'll notice that some will be less than a week. Some might take more time. Enjoy each book for what it is. That kind of is a little tip within a tip, which is make sure that you're reading widely, not necessarily just a specific genre. I've been guilty of this with my work and family commitments. For a long time, I had a lot of nonfiction on my reading list. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I believe I got really efficient on reading books, digesting them, getting the good takeaways from them. But it's a different skill set when you have the fiction, when you have the poetry, when you're mixing math and science with also graphic novel. All these pieces require different parts of your brain, different ways of taking notes. And so widening your reading list really enriches your life. This leads to the second takeaway, which is read first and then take notes. I know if you have a really good book, you want to put everything down on paper, notes, journal it. But for the initial time that you go through a book, simply jot down those interesting points. You could do it as a legend. For me, I'll put little symbols like stars, quotes, maybe an action thing I want to do later. And it allows me to keep that rhythm of reading. So you're still maintaining a certain pace, but you're making a note for something that you want to think about later and get back to. It is a balance. This is just jotting it down. It doesn't have to be complicated, but this is a way for you to kind of just initially organize what those key points are that you want to remember. And the great thing about just simply jotting and making notes, even if you're dog earing some of the pages, is that you are triggering a little bit of your memory for those key points that you will come back to later. So where do you keep those notes? This leads to the third point, which is keep a commonplace book. For those of you not familiar with it, a commonplace book is basically a place where you're capturing snippets. Maybe it is a quote, a phrase, or an idea that you get from a book. This is the opposite of what I would say a journal is, where you are processing it or you are doing extensive notes for a paper. This is more of a snapshot. Nowadays, a lot of people switch that over to digital apps like Notion and Evernote, make it a lot easier to capture that. But you can also get a old-fashioned notebook and keep your notes that way. Again, this is a place for you to simply capture some timeless wisdom that you want to think about and meditate on later. One way I like to use it is when I go back to it, I can see at a certain point in my life, there were things that were on my mind, which then I can go and think about and work on later. Try to limit yourself to only a certain amount of takeaways as you're reading a book. This trains you to hunt for not just the main ideas, which is a great skill to have, but also look for those meaningful thoughts and ideas in a book that you're reading. Finally, my last tip for reading more deeply is to read the book again. I'm not saying you have to read it right away, but if you found something good and meaningful, go back to it. And I love this analogy from Elizabeth Phillips, who compared it to listening to an incredible and amazing song once and then never hearing it again. I don't know anyone who does that. Instead, what do? We find a song that we love, we put it on a playlist, maybe several, and we listen to it over and over again. And that's the same way with books. By rereading again, you can appreciate it more. You can better understand it because in a lot of cases, where you are now is a snapshot of your life experiences. And so you're going to see it through that lens. But when you come back to it, you're a different person. You're going to come from it at a different perspective. And so you're going to capture something else. And it becomes more meaningful to you and it resonates in a different way. Before we wrap up, I do want to mention, if you don't consider yourself a natural reader, which I don't know how you define that, but you do want to develop the habit of reading, here's a tip from Janice and Alex that I think hits the nail on the head. It's read what you love until you love to read. Whether you're just starting out with becoming a regular reader or you've been doing it for years, just keep in mind, this is supposed to enrich your life. It's supposed to be enjoyable and not feel like a burden. So there you have it, my tips for reading more deeply. If you want to learn more about having less stress, open up options, and enjoy a rich life, make sure that you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.